idea of somebody calling you needy, clingy, or desperate doesn't ick you out, then I don't know what will. Just think of a man sitting there and saying, Neeti's desperate, Neeti's clingy. Should be enough for you to watch this video and be secure. I used to spend my nights messaging guys, refreshing my Instagram stories, waiting for a text back, daydreaming about boys, or getting drunk. All of these things I was doing were because I felt anxious and lonely. Now I am so secure and happy and healthy and free, and I am here to teach you guys how you're gonna get from anxious to secure easily. You know me, my name is Neeti. I'm your everything big sister, advice, confidence, dating, glow up. I did a thesis on attachment theory and I work in mental health, and so everything I'm sharing with you is backed up in experience and research. Well, there's so much on the internet about anxious attached. If he wanted to, he would. There's so much mixed messaging, and as somebody who was very anxiously attached and looked to YouTube and looked to the self-help books to get help, there are so many messages and there are so many different things that people will tell you. This is really the only video you need. In this video, we're going to be talking about anxious attachment. I'm assuming that you guys kind of already know what anxious attachment is, but basically if you are someone who always kind of has like this void in you and always feels like you need a partner, we're talking about boys here, but it could be anybody. You always needs a partner to be happy, always like waiting for a guy to text you back, waiting for somebody to give you attention. If you always kind of feel like you're on like the lower receiving end of a relationship, if you feel like you can't be happy without a boy, if you have like extreme fears about being alone, you could be anxiously attached. And so I'm just going to briefly go over attachment. I do have another video that goes deep into attachment and the theory, and it basically stems in your childhood based on your relationship with your parents or parent. And basically if you are somebody who's anxiously attached, you kind of didn't have like that secure validation from your parent that they would always kind of be there for you. And so there's literally an infant paradigm that I worked on in which you put infants in like an unfamiliar situation or alone in a room, and you kind of see how they react when their parent leaves and when their parent comes back. An anxiously attached person is always scared when their parent leaves that they're not going to come back, and so they always just feel like they could be left alone. And whenever they do see their parent come, they kind of cling to them because they don't know if they're going to see them again. They kind of got like mixed messaging in childhood about maybe how consistent their parent was, maybe how loved they were, and maybe how much they were going to be there for them. So that kind of is what makes the anxiety, it's called anxious ambivalent, which means it's just not consistent security that my parent is always going to be there for me or always going to like physically show up to take care of me and my needs. And so what that looks like in adulthood is it always translates into relationship. Early, I feel like in your adolescence, when you start dating, when you start talking to boys, you kind of have this thing like your nervous system was programmed as a kid to kind of like be anxious, like you don't know if this person's gonna leave you, you don't know if this person's coming back, and you bring that onto a partner. And so
I don't know if this boy is gonna stay, I don't know if I'm good enough for him, I don't know if he's gonna leave me at any
point. So you cling. You're often called the clingy and the needy girl, which I hate those words. Every girl hates those words, but the fact of the matter is the anxious girls are the needy and the clingy ones because they cling to the man because they don't want them to leave, or they just are just not happy alone. One thing I want to start with is being anxious is not your fault. It is a need to grab onto stability and a desperate need for love just because those needs were not met in your childhood. And so it is not at all your fault. People see you though the girl who's clingy, the girl who's easy, because she doesn't necessarily have the standards because she's so desperate for wanting that love. I actually see this TikTok the other day that kind of like described how an anxiously attached person acts. And I feel like if this sounds like you in a relationship, then you know it's you. So it says anxiously attached partners don't break up with people. For an anxiously attached person to actually leave, that means you really messed up. The anxious partner most likely wanted to grow and repair with you. They often stay in things a lot longer than maybe they should have. They often put up with things that they maybe shouldn't be. They probably asked you several times to join them in doing that work. This is a big thing. If you're anxious, most of the time you actually don't want to be anxious. You actually hate that feeling, and sometimes I remember when I was younger, I used to hate being like this. Like I hated feeling like this. I hated being that girl. I wanted to just be free and like those girls who just frolic in the freaking grass and they don't care if a guy's texting them back. You probably are more willing to actually do the work. There's nothing more important to an anxious partner than to preserve the connection. You will cling on to that connection and you want it to work no matter what. You want to cling on to love. You got a little bit of love from a person and you want that to work no matter what. If you didn't show an interest, they decided to work on getting healthy alone. until they finally outgrew the dysfunction of an insecure relationship. The only solution to getting out of anxious jail is to do the real work. And I'm gonna break it to you, girl. The real work starts from within. Me, I tried every other way to get out of this. The only way I got to being secure, happy, and free was from doing the work. So what happens when you are in this anxious, lonely state? You stay in things that maybe you shouldn't be staying in. You stay in relationships that are not treating you and meeting your needs. You basically stay in relationships, or you're always seeking out people who are giving you bare minimum or even less than that sometimes, just because you want to feel loved and you just a lot of times are scared of being alone. It's actually bad because sometimes it's a cycle. It's like the longer you stay and you try to make the relationship work, or the longer that you just like push to be with somebody who maybe isn't treating you right, the harder it gets to actually leave. The way that I knew that there was something off with the sense of validation I always needed was like, even when I was in a relationship that the person wasn't even an avoidant person. If you don't know what avoidant is, we can go into that later, but the person who I was dating was actually pretty loving and like pretty secure in terms of like validating me. But even when they would validate me, even though I was in a long-term relationship with somebody, I felt like I still needed validation from them. It's like I needed them to tell me every single day I was amazing. I needed them to get me flowers. And them, like, they would tell me like I'm beautiful and I'm enough, but like I still needed more. I needed more, I needed more, I needed to feel worthy. And I used to kind of like play these little tricks. Like I'd be like, oh, I want to see like if he like remembers this, and if he doesn't, he doesn't love me. Even when you sometimes get that love, which not everybody does, even when you're with somebody and you feel like, oh, I should be happy, even then sometimes you can still need the validation. And that's how you know that it's a hole and it's a void within you that needs to be filled. Nobody else can fill. Like if you had two glasses, and imagine there's a hole in this glass. Okay, I should have got a glass. I'm pouring. The man or the other person, your partner, is pouring love into you, but this just keeps draining. Like imagine all the liquid is just flowing out here. They keep pouring, but you're still not feeling full because there's a freaking hole in you that needs to be filled, which is your need for validation, and it's actually loving yourself. So I think a really good place to start if you're trying to go deeper and like see where this is coming from and work on it is asking yourself like sometimes like, what are you running from? A lot of times anxious people, they don't like to be alone. When I was kind of going through this, I used to think like, no, I don't mind being alone. I don't mind being like, I live alone. I live in this condo alone. What do you mean? But like a lot of times you actually do not like to be alone. And I also mean that like not just physically alone, but like single. You need to ask yourself like when you're single, or like when you're like alone, or when you're not getting any validation, or you're not getting, there's no men in your phone, like what are you running from that you don't like the feeling? Sometimes when you're single and you're not getting any validation and there's no guys in your phone and you're actually just alone with yourself and not distracting, there are fears and there are negative thoughts that are in there that we've just been avoiding dealing with. One of the big things I noticed was that I had fears, and you know what, you probably have fears too. You can't blame us because look at our childhood. I had a fear that I would never find love. I had a fear that maybe I don't even know if I'm worthy of love. You know, maybe you've been told things in the past that don't make you feel like it. Maybe it could be a parent, maybe it could be friends, it could be a previous relationship that didn't make you feel worthy. You need to ask yourself why. Why do I feel like I'll never find love? Why do I feel like I'm not worthy of love? I irrationally had a fear of being alone. I had a fear that I would end up single. Although I don't explicitly know where that came from, I think that my parents sometimes would use that as like bait, like no one's gonna marry you if you do this, no one's gonna marry you if you do that. It's a very South Asian thing, and I think from a young age it just like instilled like, oh, I can't be alone, like this fear. I also grew up with parents who didn't really have the best marriage, and I also think that there was a part of me that was like scared to end up like that, and so it would kind of like grasp onto a relationship. It doesn't even make logical sense, but if I could have a guy always telling me that I am good, or if I could be in a relationship all the time, or I can always have a guy pouring into me, then like that fear is not going to be yapping. As soon as like it's ambivalent, as soon as they're being iffy, as soon as I get single, as soon as I have to be alone, that fear comes back up. Yeah, I was gonna say I grew up kind of like not really seeing like the most loving relationship, and so I think that there was another like weird fallacy that like I kind of became obsessed with, like I need a happy loving relationship to almost like make up for that, you know. And that was just me. You could have your own reasons, but definitely sit and journal with yourself and ask yourself like, what are you actually running from? Like what are your fears around love? It could be what you saw, it could be your childhood, it could be something that somebody told you. Figure that out, because that is the root. You can't just put a band-aid on all these fears that are in your head and expect to become securely attached. You need to actually dig into that and fix those fears, or you're always going to be acting out of this anxious, needy place. Now, another thing that you might have heard other people talking about is rewriting your story. So whatever you're journaling about, maybe from your childhood, maybe whatever this narrative you have in your head is, mine was like, oh, I don't think I'm ever going to find love. Like, I'm scared of ending up alone. You need to rewrite this story. You need to erase the story, and you need to rewrite it and engrave it in your head. Maybe when you're journaling, maybe even just like the thoughts that you're telling yourself, the words that you speak out loud every single day. I had to start telling myself, I am going to find the love of my life. Why would I actually not? Like, what makes me think that I'm actually unlovable? I'm XYZ. There's nothing in my life that's making me think that I won't find the love of my life. Like, I'm only 25. Like, you know what I mean? You need to rewrite the story and rewrite the fears. Maybe, you know, I didn't see a love growing up, but that doesn't mean that I won't get one. There is no hard evidence to prove that I will not find a love just because my parents didn't have a loving relationship. That is what you need to rewrite, and a lot of times that comes with sitting and thinking and logic. If you need to literally write that out in your journal every day, do it. Like, do it. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is you need to make a pact that you are going to work on you. One thing I will say is this is not an easy journey, and it doesn't happen like this. I wish it did, but it is the most fulfilling journey when you are on the other side. I had to work on this for about a year, actively. What I did is I did something called Sober for Men. I have a whole other video on Sober for Men. Was more, I kind of decided to like go cold turkey from like attention from guys and just be alone. But in a way, it's like I made a pact to myself that I'm going to take 6 months, whatever you want to take. I want to take a year, and I am working on my attachment style because I know that when I come out of this, I'm going to show up better for myself, but also better in relationships. And I'm going to like be in a healthy marriage one day because I took this time to work on myself and this attachment style that I have. You know what else making a pact to yourself does? It shows yourself that you are showing up for yourself. You don't need somebody else to always show up for you. If you can show yourself, I show up for me. I'm making a pact to show up for myself and work on myself for 6 months. I'm going to be deep diving, I'm going to be journaling, I'm going to be watching videos on this, I'm going to be going to therapy, I'm going to not get attention from men, I'm going to learn to spend time alone, I'm spending 3 nights alone, whatever it is, you're making a pact with yourself. Same how you make a deal with your friend, promise to put more effort into this friendship, make a pact to yourself. It'll show you that you are important. Oh, a lot of times in this pact, I think you should spend time alone. I don't just mean sitting on your couch watching Netflix and rotting, which you might already do. You might also already do spend a lot of time alone, but spend time alone doing activities like almost like the things you do with your friends. If I would go to a cupcake baking class with my friend, do it alone. If I will cook a really cute meal with my partner, usually do it alone. Like, get excited, get dressed up, and like cook this cute little dinner. Find activities and find hobbies. Like, I started going to dance classes. I love dancing. Like, that heals me. That's something I do alone. I started reading a lot. I started just like going on solo dates. Start spending some time alone. I'm telling you, you need to get comfortable with being by yourself, because if you are not comfortable with yourself, then what is the alternative? Think about this way. Let's say you're talking to a guy, he's really iffy, he cancels on you. You're anxiously attached, you're gonna feel like shit because you were so excited to go out with that person. You've been thinking about them 24/7. You're obsessed with them. Oh my god, maybe they're the love of my life. They cancel on you, now you feel like absolute shit. I remember even crying over things like this. I would cry because someone canceled on me even though it was a valid reason. If you like already spending time by yourself, what is the alternative to him canceling? Oh, I get a night in by myself. Oh, I actually enjoy that. So you're not going to be clinging and so upset when people cancel on you and people don't show up for you. If a talking stage ends, you're not going to be as upset because the alternative of being alone is actually fun. You also need to learn to emotionally regulate yourself. When you're going through this phase of like digging deep in your childhood, like emotions are going to come up. You're going to be sad. Cutting off talking stages, going through a breakup, you're going to be sad. Not getting any attention in itself was freaking hard for me, and it's really sad. You need to learn to emotionally regulate. A lot of us, at least what I used to do, is I would just like not let myself be sad. I just like I wanted to avoid being sad at all cost, to the point where I would just like be like, no, I don't want to be sad, like distract myself, like this is not good. I had to learn that, you know what, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel lonely. If you feel lonely right now, like it's actually okay. Being sad and being lonely sometimes is a natural emotion. Like, let it come to the surface. Let yourself cry. Because that's actually healing and that's actually important for you. And what I've learned is like, you will actually feel a lot better when you let that cry out. I used to avoid crying so much that it would just sit inside, that I realized like when I actually would let it out, like, oh, I actually feel a lot better. I feel a lot lighter. Also, emotionally regulating yourself, letting yourself cry, and then maybe logically telling yourself, you know, this boy is not my husband, or him not texting me back is not about me, him canceling me is not about me, whatever it is that you have to tell yourself logically, that's showing yourself that, hey, I can deal with hard emotions. And each time you do that, each time you let yourself cry, you regulate yourself, you tell yourself, you calm your nervous system down, you explain to yourself that it's not about me, and then you move on with your day, or you move on to the next day, you're actually showing yourself like, hey, I can emotionally regulate myself, which shows me that I can handle whatever is to come. Another thing I want to say is do not keep in touch with people who make you anxious. This is a mistake. A lot of times we low-key trick ourselves and we're like, no, I'll just keep them around. I won't message them first, or like I'm not actively seeing them, but you know, I kind of like low-key, you'll trick yourself, like I want that attention here and there. If there's any sort of attachment, if you're working on this, maybe you're doing Sober for Men, you're taking the time to like your 6 months alone, do not keep in contact with anybody who makes you anxious, because this is going to keep bringing you back into that negative cycle when you're trying to move forward, and it's going to make it 10 times harder for you. I did this. I kept in touch with guys who were still kind of making me anxious, and I made a lot of excuses. I said, oh, you know, I'm not really talking to them, like, oh, like, you know what I mean, like I don't actively see them, like I just kept them on like my snap, or I just kept them on like my story. No, because you're still going to be triggered. You know how hard it is to go through the first like month or two of being alone? You're going to be like, did he look at my story? Like, you're going to start looking for anything to give you validation and anything to give you attention, and it's going to make it that much harder. Once you get to the why of why you are anxious, logically explain to yourself when you're going through things what is happening. So let's say, you know, a guy said he was going to call me back, and he did. A recent example, I was talking to somebody and he went on a date with another girl, and I heard about it because a friend saw him. That doesn't feel good. Of course nobody's going to be happy about that. I cried it out because, you know what, my anxious side of me was like, you know what, I feel like I'm less than, I feel like I'm not worthy. Those are things that I felt in my childhood. This is how it makes me feel. Cried out. The next day, you know what, logically though, it's not about me. If anything, that's how he rolls. That shows on him. It's not about me being less than, and to be honest, it's about his own insecurities. Maybe he needs to have multiple girls around him to make him feel like something. He might have his own childhood traumas that might feed his ego. It's not about me. I was able to deal with the situation. This is an example. You can do it. A guy not texting you back, a guy not replying to your stories, a guy ghosting you, canceling. You can deal with your emotions, logically explain to yourself like, this is literally not about me. A lot of times guys, they can't even grasp a hold of their own life. That they're not even thinking as far as like, oh, I canceled on her, and like all the emotional impact it's having. They just literally cannot even get a grasp of their own life. It's not about me. You kind of like can logically talk to yourself like the way a therapist would talk to somebody after you calm down from crying or like getting upset. You can talk to like literally doing this over and over and over, situation after situation, is the practice that's going to show you like, hey, I'm actually secure and I can actually get through this. The more and more you're put in situations, it's a test. That's how I like to think of everything. It's a test. I was put in so many different situations with so many different people that was so clear to me, like the universe is testing me. Yes, I feel a way about it, but like, can I handle this better? Can I logically explain to myself what's going on and like choose to cut this person off instead of like crying and calling them and sending them the paragraphs? And each time I got better and better and better. And the more tests you're passing in terms of dealing with these situations in a healthier way with the logical explanations, the closer you're getting to being secure. Another thing I want you to do is like, the reality of it is that you have to accept that you will feel lonely. Being single in your 20s and your teens, whatever, being single, we're human beings. It's natural to want somebody. I'm not taking away from that. I'm not one of those women who preaches like singlehood. It is natural to want a partner. Everybody wants a partner. And so therefore, when you're on this journey, or even just if you're single in general, it is lonely and it is sad sometimes. Just accept it. Like, this is just part of the phase of life that you are in. You are not going to be in this phase forever. And in fact, you're going to show up a lot better and probably have a healthy relationship, which will be the next 50, 60, 70 years, inshallah, of your life. But right now, you're just in a lonelier period that is needed, and just accept it. You know, when I'm lonely, it's not going to be like this forever. What I will say is that my dating game changed after I spent a year working on my attachment style, going to therapy. Once I deep dived into them, I worked on myself. I did Sober for Men. I went cold turkey, no addiction, and withdrew from like needing attention, learned how to be happy alone, spending more time by myself. reading books, watching YouTube videos like this, I walk away from things so much quicker. If a guy's not showing up for me, I'm not grasping onto it and staying in it, because I'm okay to go back and be alone, because I actually learned how to be happy. This stage that I was in of like the singlehood stage and working on this actually ended up becoming pretty cool. Like it wasn't sad anymore. So therefore, I don't mind cutting this guy off in this talking stage because he's not showing up for me, because like what's the alternative? Like me being alone is actually not that bad. I actually like it. Like the fuck? I noticed a lot of more red flags just because I was just more in touch with myself. You're just quicker to like pick up red flags because you don't have rose tinted sunglasses on anymore, because you're not desperate to be with somebody. It's like you're kind of observing somebody as like, are they good for me? Are they gonna fit in my life really well? Rather than like, I just hope this works, since I don't want to be alone. Like telling yourself that you are loved, feeling loved, enjoying your own company, I can now look at men as like, are they a good partner for me? Do we align? I'm okay to walk away. I know that when I do get into a relationship or a marriage, like I'm gonna show up and also not being needy. Like, you know, like that person can live their life and I can also live my life, and I don't need them to tell me I'm amazing every single day because I have this empty water pouring void. You know what I mean? Because that's gonna tire them out too. Like nobody wants to be with a girl who they constantly have to pour in and it's never good enough. I really hope that this video helped you. I definitely gave you some important steps to do. I would love to make more videos on anxious attachment, babes. If you want me to say anything more, definitely comment. I post a lot. My Sober for Men series is on TikTok. You can follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I'm here to give you confidence, help you glow up, live your best life. Learn from my lessons, babes. I will see you in the next one. Bye.